budget proposal of 2021, I would like to state clearly that these are uneasy times. The Nigerian youths are not very happy with the situation they find themselves in the country, and it's not only youth programs that we should focus on. The way to go is involve the youths in sporting activities, because as you are very aware, sporting activities have a lot of revenue according to it in other countries. So if we totally concentrate on youth empowerment, entrepreneurship skills, there are other youths that have talent, sporting talents. So we need to focus on sports as well. And it's a good thing that this ministry is the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development. Why I'm saying this is, let us not only focus on youth development vis-a-vis entrepreneurship and empowerment schemes, let us focus on sports development. Let us invest in sports so that the youth that have talent, physical talent for sports, can be engaged and have a future in sports. It's very, very important. With that, I would invite the Minister to present his 2021 budget.
Thank you very much, dear honorable members present here this afternoon. And I want to preface my presentation this afternoon by also thanking the entire members of this committee for your support, but more importantly for your understanding. As the chairman said, beyond the issues of finance and budget, we live in very uncertain times. The year 2020 has been a year like no other. We ended up with a COVID-19 lockdown and then landed in another youth-led lockdown. But in spite of these challenges, we have also seen a window of opportunities. On our part, what we've done at the ministry is to take a critical look at our previous budgets, and we found something that was slightly instructive. That is, we realized that we needed to build up our the capital side of our budget, vis-a-vis the recurrent. Because it is only when we have that capital reserve that we can carry out the necessary projects either for youth or for sports, but especially for sports. Now, Mr. Chairman, you're right. 61% of those involved in sports in this country and globally are the youth, which means that we must provide them with necessary support, with training, camping, and opportunities that they need. Having said that, let me say I'm delighted to be part of this meeting this morning, the 2021 budget proposal of the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development and its agencies, in order to highlight priority activities, programs, and projects of the ministry, leveraging on the aspirations of the government policy trust as articulated in the Nigerian Economic Sustainability Plan. Mr. Chairman, I may not read verbatim. I will speak extempore to some of the aspects. But I wish to, like I said, profoundly appreciate this committee, particularly the chairman and esteemed honorable members of this committee on sports for the support and understanding you have extended to us. It's very clear that the mandate of the ministry is dual, that of youth development and sports development. And like I often said, we cater for two of the largest audiences and two of the most sensitive audiences in this country. The first being the youth audience, which is necking at 70 million plus, and the second being the sports audience. Over 120 million Nigerians love their football, love their athletics, and you agree with me, these two audiences are massive, very sensitive, and also expect a lot from government. I will not bore you with the departments that we have, but it might be important to just mention for the record that we have the NYSC, we have the NFF, we have the CLTC, Citizenship and Leadership Training Center, we have the National Institute for Sports, which is based in Lagos, E-NASS. We just finished the exercise of the review, the performance of the 2020 appropriation budget. Mr. Chairman, I would want to know if you want me to go through again the summary of the 2020 appropriation budget.
Please, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. The appropriation budget for the Ministry of Youth and Sports and its 4 parastatals in the year 2020 had an aggregated capital expenditure of 2.8 billion plus and an overhead appropriation of 13 billion, while the personnel cost stood at 148 billion, always often the highest. The total allocation for the sector was 165 billion plus. As you are aware, the payment of salaries and island allowances are centrally administered by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. The Ministry and its parastatals had earlier on prepared and submitted its 2021 personnel budget to the Budget Office for further action. On page 3, there's a table there that breaks down by budget item, by the appropriation from Naira, the releases received so far, and the percentage of performance. The main ministry is clearly stated there. The NYSC takes the largest chunk. Personnel is 145 billion. Overhead, capital for NYSC is 99 million. Performance for capital is at 50%. Performance for overhead is 95.26% as we speak. CLTC, Center for Training and Leadership, has a capital of 47 million. Releases so far is 23 million. Performance level 49.15%. The Nigerian Football Federation, overhead is 619 million. Releases so far 411 million. Performance 66.48. And capital is 11 million. 5.5 so far released. It's at 50% performance level. The Institute for Sports in Lagos has an overhead of 65 million. Performance is at 66 because of 43 million 728 release. And capital is 48 million. Releases 24. Performance at 50. With the benefit of the performance and the review of 2020, we want to just provide an overview of the 2021 budget proposal. And you will find out that what we've done a bit of tweaking, because you will see that the budget proposal for 2021 is different in 2 fundamental respects. One, we were able to put together a budget and programs that deepened directly youth development programs, even without knowing that 3 weeks ago happened. Equally in sports, we've also been able to do a similar thing to deepen our sports programs, particularly with the approval of the Federal Executive Council that turned sports from mere recreation into business. Therefore, the 2021 budget proposal also equally leverages on the same NESP, the federal government, and of course emphasizes the investment in our citizens, particularly the youth, and also in the sports area. Therefore, on page 6, the table is there for the 4 parastatals, and when you compare the table of 2020 to 2021, you can connect the dots where we have under the main ministry in 2020 we had a capital of 32.7. At 2.6 in 2020. For 2021, the proposed capital for the main ministry is 9.9 billion. NYSC is almost at the same, 147 for personnel, overhead 16, and capital 956. CRTC, overhead 200, capital 260. Personnel for NFF 119, overhead 905, capital 206. NIS, overhead 146, capital 360. Mr. Chairman and esteemed members, invited to note that the present capital budget proposal, though higher than last year, is yet grossly inadequate to finance the maintenance of our 5 national stadia, the number of mini sports centers, and the youth development centers that we have across the country. In addition to the non-inclusion of the constituencies, the projects of the constituencies submitted by members of the National Assembly, regrettably, in the 2021 budget proposal. We brought that forward, but finance yanked it off. Besides our press to progress with the concessioning of the National Stadium in Lagos, as approved by the government, and the Athletes Hostel and the Abiola National Stadium in Abuja, we've also been faced with funding challenges. Though we'll find a way to move this along, the transaction advisor is already working with concessionaires. Therefore, without mixing words, participation in national, continental, and international games, which have brought much glory to and goodwill to the country among the Committee of Nations, provided employment for our teaming youth, and also a way of investing in our people. We all know is extremely capital intensive. The Olympics will have held this year, but was postponed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. In the past, we've been challenged with very late releases of such funds, coming barely 6 weeks or 8 weeks before. But we are very optimistic that this time around, with almost 8 months before the Olympics, we're likely going to get some releases that will help us have our athletes go into camping early, whether for the home-based or for the foreign-based. We have in the past sought the intervention of Mr. President through the Special Intervention Fund, and we are happy that each time we seek such interventions, the Presidency has always given us that support. In 2020, the Ministry could not carry out any international sporting events, of course, through the global COVID-19, but also 5 days to the commencement of the National Sports Festival, which we often refer to as our Nigerian Olympics. We have to postpone such indefinitely. We are hopeful with the opening up of the sporting ecosystem, non-contact and contact sports. We're in talks with the Edo State government, with the PTF, NCDC, to see how we can have the National Sports Festival between late November or early December with a different staggered format. The ministry's achievements, and I will just read them out on page 6. For us, we looked at the efforts in the last 3 or 4 years to kind of build a business model around our sport. And what we did in the last 9 months was to accelerate that process, working with the NESG. I did a presentation in June to the Federal Executive Council, and after that presentation, it was decided and approved by Mr. President that henceforth sports be classified as business, no longer as operation. What this has done, it brings us at par with other countries like Jamaica, Brazil, South Africa, the UK, Canada, who have a business model built around their sports, such that a value chain is generated that creates millions of jobs for our youth. It also contributes between 2 to 3% to GDP, but also brings revenue to government. We are meeting this week in Osoba, all the 36 commissioners of sports, to look at the final draft of the Nigerian industry policy. We hope that after that meeting, we can then go forward to the Federal Executive Council with a memo that will eventually bring in a business model. And let me say, Mr. Chairman, why this is important for us is that it adds value on our athletes. It improves their welfare. It opens opportunities for grants for them. So in the past, when somebody walks in and pays pittance for a footballer, and the country gets nothing, the club gets nothing, only the agent that comes in gets all the money. This time, it's going to be divvied up. Government gets something, the athletes get something, the club gets something, the agent gets something. And that's the global practice. This policy is predicated on the 3 I's and 1 P. The policy must provide funding for infrastructure. Without sporting infrastructure, we can't develop our sports. The policy must provide for investment. We need public and private investments to make it happen. The policy must provide incentives on the part of government. There must be incentives to attract investors into the sporting industry. And finally, the policy is the P that ties all of this together. The second one are the programs and initiatives. Because of the limited funding we have seen in the last 5 years, the funding to sports has basically nosedived. I didn't bring a graph here, but when you plot that graph in the last 5 years, so we were challenged to develop a public-private model. That's why in November last year, we launched the Adopt initiative in Lagos, December precisely. And this Adopt initiative is a public-private model for sports development. It includes the flavors that adopt an athlete, adopt a sport, adopt a football pitch, adopt a sports center, and also to resuscitate the long-standing Nigerian Sports Hall of Fame, which is in Abuja Stadium. We have very soon that will be ready, and we'll be invited to help us inaugurate it. The grassroots sports development. Our departure from grassroots sports development has led this country to only seek for athletes that will represent us from other countries. Sometimes we have to really beg them. But in the past, we had an incubator system where from the academicals, the principals club, inter-school sports, and all of them, all of these athletes came through that system. And they turned out to be some of the best we've had in the world. So we try to return to that. We have a talent hunt program, which is also part of our mandate. We've started that process. We've relaunched the National Principals Cup, abandoned 13 to 14 years ago. We've identified quite a number of youngsters in boxing, in swimming, in tennis, in football, and that is ongoing. We believe we can build a new factory of young talents from ages 10 to 15 that will eventually be able to represent this country. 4, sports development, infrastructure, and facilities. We have recorded some successes when it comes to the Adopt initiative. As early as November last year, we did a presentation to Alhaji Dangote, and he agreed that he was going to fix the main ball of the National Stadium. We presented about 5 items. He agreed to do 3 items based on what he has budgeted. His plan, he decided he will not make available more than $1 million. The funding is directly from Dangote, it's under a CSR arrangement. It's from Dangote directly to the contractor he has picked. The National Stadium in Abuja is currently undergoing regrassing, a new scoreboard, and also the trunks. We also have another CSR that helped us to fix the Dara Township Stadium. And Dara Township Stadium came into being because it had been fixed earlier, but it went into complete disrepair. And I know several other states have football teams, but we found that in Dara they had 47 to 48 youth football teams, privately sponsored, and they had just a single pitch. So it was, for us, we felt it was important to use that amongst several others. We've listed about 10 other township stadiums we want people to fix. And Dara Township Stadium now has a first-grade AstroTurf pitch completed in September this year. The National Stadium Surulere, abandoned for 18 years, but also abused, turned into a brothel, a hideout for hoodlums. We set up a task force that did due diligence, did certification, accreditation, verification. And after that process, we found out that over 148 structures within that premises were illegal structures. We set up another task force, and as we speak, we've been able to pull down 145 to 148 illegal structures in the National Stadium. And when you drive through now, you can see it clearly. You can see how beautiful it is, even though not maintained. But also, we made a pitch to find someone that can, through CSR, provide some kind of maintenance. And we got Chief Deputy Kashington to also do likewise, just like what Dangote is doing in the same way. Mr. Chairman, let me just say that we have realized that government cannot fully sponsor sport, especially when it comes to infrastructure, unless we have private participation, which we know we cannot deliver through the sports industry policy, unless we have companies and individuals coming through CSR. These are models that have worked in other countries. We are already on that path, and if not for the COVID-19 pandemic that occurred, we will have gone much further than that. But I think the most important aspect, I must say, is the adopt an athlete. For the first time, we have several of our athletes on the path of adoption. For the home-based, we developed a program that will give them $10,000. This money goes directly into the accounts of the athletes. For the foreign-based, they get $20,000 that goes directly into their account. Until COVID-19 came, 6 of them had gone through the 4 stages of being adopted, an MOU signed, and monies paid directly into their account. We have about 42 to 47 more athletes. We're inching our way gradually to get all of them adopted, and I think for the first time this is happening. Our athletes will get money that they need for training, for paying their coaches, for medication, and for travels. Mr. Chairman, I'm appreciative of this committee's commitment to support the programs and activities of my ministry, not just this year, previous years, but also in the year 2020, as we hope to be able to meet the expectations of our youth. It's quite high, very high, and also the expectations of sport-loving Nigerians. It is my hope this afternoon that the outcome of this exercise will greatly address the expectation of the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development and also of Nigerians, bearing in mind that if the future of our nation is to be impacted positively, we'll have to invest in our youth and their development. We look forward to taking up the questions and providing necessary answers to the details of the project.
What effort have you made to create a way in which most of these youths, example of this E-NASS, and so many undiscovered ones, can be part of this 2021 appropriation in order to get them out of streets, because we have what we call the skills for all these youth in your proposed budget, but it's not specified particular what type of skills are you engaging on these youth, because we believe all these youth are in your constituency and we're supposed to take the paramount and control of it to make sure you engage them.
What's the plan for the 65 billion naira that was approved? Is it 65 or 75? 75 billion that was approved for the youth investment fund. I intend to go about that. Also, I was just going through your budget proposal, and I can see, from what I can see here, the increment is a lot. The capital went from 2 billion to 9.9, right? 9.9 billion. That's quite a lot. Now, going further, do you have, I believe you have a legal department? Yes. So I wanted to find out, why is it that you are paying for legal services, Is it are they consultants? And if they are, there's another item on page 16, not page 28, item 16, where you have law books again. Because we're looking at how to save, how to cut costs. Yes, cost of governance. Finally, what's the difference between your, I can see training here, and I believe the training is for your staff, right? In your overhead proposal. I believe the training is for the staff. And I can also see capacity building for staff again. So I'd like to know the difference.
We prepared this project before the ENSAS occurred. But what we also did on our part, because we had done some researches, we realized that we needed to deepen sports development, and of course, youth. There's a connectedness between the two of them, which is why we reduced our recurrence and build up our capital. And the bulk of our capital deals with not just the brick and mortar, but deals with a new concept of training into enterprise. That is, when you train our youth, you just don't train them for training's sake and turn them back into the unemployment market. You provide them with the tools they need to be self-starters, wealth creators, and employers of labor. So without knowing that ENSAS would come up, we did due diligence and made a robust presentation to the finance team to say whatever you're giving us now is not sufficient. And these are the programs that we have. We have the DEAL program, which is the nomenclature that ties in digital skills, ties in employability. How do you make our youth employable? Ties in employment, ties in leadership and mentoring. And under each of these letters, we have programs and projects built up, which we also put there. Some of them are already ongoing, and because they are not fully funded, they're just at 15% implementation. So I think if you look at our 2021 budget, you will see that in a deliberate way, we've been able to take care of these concerns, but also with the ENSAS protest, we have a better opportunity. Also, COVID-19 provided us a window of opportunity when we had the economic sustainability plan, and we were invited to also come and make presentations. Because we developed some of these programs that were targeted and specific, we were able to present them, and that fetched us an approval of another 4.1 billion under the stimulus package to cater for our youth. They will be trained in a wide range of skills, not just digital skills. There are some that don't need digital skills. Some need skills in smart agriculture, or even our normal traditional agriculture. Mobile device repairs is big now anywhere. You don't need a certificate from a university to do that. We all have smart applications. And in 60 days, you can become a mobile device repairer with a starter pack of 200 that costs 200. We also have training for solar panels. So many people now, in spite of the generators, also have solar panels. Most of our kids can develop that. We have a range of about 12 to 14 different areas that caters for the top echelon, the degree holders, the bachelor, the diploma holders, but also the truck driver, the vulcanizer can also get some, even the person that does POP, we have training, the fashion designer, because the profile of our youth, for us, we redefined it at the ministry, is no longer just somebody with a diploma or university degree. What qualifies you as a youth? First is your Nigerianness, but the most critical component is your age. Once you fall within that bracket, you're a Nigerian youth, you deserve attention, whether in sports or overall youth development. Just last Sunday, we had the National Youth Day, and we had a 60-day app challenge campaign. We got 3,000 entries from our youth. 10 of them were selected as winners. They were presented on Sunday, and each of them got 1 million naira from the ministry. I'm not sure that has ever happened before. We also found 5 innovators. All of them youth from about 4 different states. We brought them up on Sunday, we showcased them, and each of them got 500,000 each. For those that did not make it, we intend to keep a tab on them and explore opportunities for them. The second question is on the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund. It's 75 billion, but it's also spread for 3 years, 25 billion naira a year. We presented it in July. That was after the appropriation had gone, so it could not even make it. That was the time it was brought up to the council. Graciously, the council entertained it, the president entertained it, and after it was presented, the president and council approved the Youth Investment Fund with a singular purpose. This fund is meant to invest in the skills, the talents and enterprise. That is to turn the large swath of our youth into entrepreneurs, not just job seekers. And we had a compelling argument that there are other programs that we have, but none of them really invest or takes risk in the skills of our youth. And we know that their potentials are on display globally, even within our country. Now, this fund is also ring-fenced. The global practice is that when you ring-fence a fund, that fund can only be used for the purpose for which it was designed. So beyond taking that money and giving it to qualified youth for enterprise, you cannot use that fund for any other thing. Because it's ring-fenced, we also have the possibility of expanding the basket. We can get donor funds from the UN and several other countries that comes into it that expands the base of that money. We're already going to approach National Assembly early next year to give it legislative backing so that it is sustainable. Because after this government moves on, our youth don't disappear. In fact, the bulge continues. So we hope to have a sustainable model through legislation, and we'll need your help in that direction. I think I've also explained why we have that jump from 2.7 to 9.9. And when you look at the details are there. The bulk of that money is going to sports development and youth empowerment. And I say empowerment very carefully because there's a paradigm shift from empowerment now to investing in our youth. When we invest in them and their ideas, we turn them into wealth creators. When you empower them, it's a short-term fix. Once that fix wears out, they're back for another empowerment. And that's the difference we want to make. We want to join the global world to make that paradigm shift. I will ask the peers to answer the question on legal services versus the law books, and also the training and capacity, the distinction between training and capacity.
You will agree with me that some of these law books are actually customized, if you like. These are not things you find every day. And what we want to do is to build the capacity of our legal department, because in recent times, the ministry has been inundated with several court cases, from the sporting associations, from the sporting federations, from even the youth organizations. I think on National Youth Council alone, we had about 5 court cases. From the Athletics Federation, we have several cases in court, Football Federation, several cases in court, quite a number. So we have quite a number of those going on, and we need to actually beef up our legal department, and we think that providing these necessities for them will help them do that. Alongside that, we also realize that we need sometimes capacities beyond the legal officers in the ministry. So we hire some of them, even senior advocates, because we don't have anybody of that level.
Yes,
for training and capacity building, what you will most likely find there for different departments. Apart from the trainings that is supposed to be mandatory annually for civil servants, sometimes you also find some specifics that will be required for some of the professional departments, like we have youth department and sports department.
Dear Minister, you will do wonderfully well with them. But you see, when you look at the advanced countries, what they've really done is to really massively invest in their sports development. And in this way, they've allowed that youth board in their own places to direct all their energies into sport. Not only football. Like, for example, our football should not stop at the first division. We should have up to 4 divisions.
so that at the local level, there will be a leader at that local level engaging these guys. Swimming is there, we're not doing anything about it. Rough cycling, smooth one, we're not doing all these things. We should start doing them. We should get another 70-something billion to massively invest in developing infrastructure and sports infrastructure. And if we so do, and we make it so lucrative for them to partake in it, invite all these private people to invest massively too, in partnership with government, to develop all these aspects of sport. You will find out that our youth will be engaged. You know, I just want to advise that, Minister, please, we should also be trying to put up a fund that will do that for our country. Look at our sports village in Lagos. I know we are doing a lot about it, but we should go ahead. We should have declared a state of emergency on that facility, and then try and develop it massively to help all the youth around the place. It will go a long way. I think we will look towards this, and we'll continue to pray with you so that you get these jobs done well before our time lapses.
Sporting activities. Yeah. We are back to this sporting activities issue.
Yes.
Are the federations captured in the sporting activities?
Yes.
What exactly are you going to be doing with the federation with the 1 billion? Who is going to get what? Because this 1 billion, 54 million is very, very big for sporting activities. What federations are captured under that 1 billion, 54 million is 708,432 naira. We have about 42 federations. Are all 42 federations captured in that 1 billion, 54 million? Or are you going to just select particular federations you will be funding? I need you to explain that. And then, further down, I don't know if we can use your document or our document. Page 1442 of our own document. That is ERGP 2615045 of our own document. Page 1442. It says reconstruction of 2 numbered training pitches in Moshood Abiola National Stadium. Ongoing, 90 million. Now, that particular item, have you started it? Because if you say you are reconstructing 2 training pitches, I know you are not using artificial grass, you are using artificial, because if you are using the live grass, I don't know how you can do an ongoing project. Meaning, if you have exhausted funds on that training pitch and abandon it for some months, and you now want to go back to it, you end up just having wasted the money you initially used to start that project. So it's ongoing. Do you have evidence that money has been allocated to this thing before, and have you actually started? Well, there are 2 numbers. That means you're doing 2 pitches at 45 million naira each. That is one. And then the one below it, I think we need to know, do you have locations for the 6 minutes for centers? Those are the 2 I'm interested in.
Okay, sir. For sporting activities, yes, we have actually 38 very functional federations, and not 42 as such. Those are the ones that have absolute accreditation, constitutions, and everything with the ministry. And recently we adopted a style that will help us to better manage them, because we are always short of resources. So the resources are actually not only on first-come, first-served basis, but which is most important. For example, we're going to be a bit biased towards games that are going to the Olympics. So where we have games that are going to the Olympics, we're going to be a bit biased in funding towards their preparatory activities, because we need to see how much medals we can bring back. But that also, I mean, for their qualifiers. And some of these activities actually are qualifiers. If you don't play them, If you don't play these activities, I mean, these particular qualifiers, you do not get a good standing for your appearances. So because it is an Olympics year, we will be definitely biased towards those 11, 16 activities that are going to the Olympics. In that sense, Mr. Chairman. But then the funding is available for all the 38 federations, like I said, but with a bias towards those that gives us a better chance of winning gold medals at the Olympics for their qualifiers. That is one. Then
before you continue, Pierce,
yes.
This committee is going to, amongst its members, have another committee for sporting activities. You are going to continually liaise with that committee. Anytime you want to release funds from sporting activities to a particular federation, you will inform that other committee to let them know that this is the federation we want to fund for this particular amount. Because if the National Assembly is going to appropriate 1 billion, 54 million to you, and we are the one that have the power of cost, we are going to inaugurate another committee you will continually liaise with and tell them, okay, this is what we want to use this big 1 billion for, that this month we are.
From page 22 of this document, you see that we have them broken down and the departments responsible for them. Preparatory activities for 21st National Sports Festival, National Council on Youth and Sports meetings, National Sports Award, Ministerial Town Hall meetings, National Youth and Sports Policy, Sport as a Business Project, African Union Sports Council overhead expenditure for 2021, anti-doping activities 2021, National Headmasters Corps 2021. Remember, we have gone back to talent hunt. Awesome Games 2021, which is by Armed Forces, Armed Forces Games. Open water swimming 2021. Zonal competitions 2021, also talent hunt. Edition of National Youth Games, which is an annual event 2021. National Principals. Okay, yes. Number 14, National Principals Cup. Number 15, National Elite Games. All these are activities that are statutory for the ministry. Training camp for middle and long distance.
Let me cut you short on that. You see, you're getting us wrong. So that means now one.
Oh no, then you have gone back to service-wise, and that is on page 24.
Exactly.
So go back to service-wise, sir.
So that's what I'm saying. You have now you are now understanding what I'm saying. So it's that 1 billion national sports federation activities that we are very concerned about.
Okay, sir. Now, Mr. Chairman, sir. Federation covers for preparations, and then covers for sometimes we're even made to host either regional or international meetings. So that is what covers, and that is under service-wide. So we draw these funds from the service-wide vote, not in our border budget, as you can see noted.
The minister wants to clarify something. Let's give the minister the opportunity.
When it comes to the federations, and I think this has been a long-standing issue. Before I became minister, the previous regime tried to bring about a democratic dispensation in the management of our federations. And part of what was decided upon was that because government very often cannot provide more than 50 or 45% of what is needed by the federations, they were given some level of independence to source for funds. And when they get these funds, they are only accountable to their board, not to the ministry, because they use their connections, and very often the presidents of these federations, in a deliberate way, they look for people that have clout, that are influential, well-connected, and they can use that to get funds. So, to a large extent, they're able to fund their activities by 50%. The ones that we have for them, the 1 billion, there's a rule of the thumb, because we don't have Olympics every year. It's only 4 years. The years when we have Olympics, we're deliberate. In the past, we went with about 28, competed in about 28 different sports. This time, we are going to compete in the just 11 priority sports where we have competitive advantage. That is why, in a deliberate way, we're going to make sure that those that get funded, priority are those from these 11 sports. There are stipulated qualifiers they must go through, most of them taking place in different countries of the world. But the rule of the thumb is this. It's often on merit. We don't know what their plans are. There are 38 of them. very often they don't know what their plans will be for the entire year. They get letters within 1 month to say, come to Belgrade for this competition. If you count on the step, on the points you need on the international ladder. So when they come, there's the rule of the thumb. We look at what they need. We benchmark it against what we can afford to give them. Mindful of the fact that there might be 20 or 15 other federations that might be coming to get from that. So it's a pool of funds. And because we have the experts in the house, some of my directors have been there for 28, 25 years. So when they apply for 10 million, it goes through about 3 departments. They look at it and say, well, how much can we give them? Because if 5 federations come and we give them all they want, by the time the other federations come, 30 others, there'll be nothing left. So there's a rule of the thumb, there's a metric system, a merit system that is in place that has worked for us over time. So that's what happens. The only exception is when we have the Olympics.
Thank you. You've been very clear on that.
The training pitches for the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, they are new and not ongoing, and we are hoping that we'll have those built this year, because as you know, we are seriously, deliberately pulling activities, game activities to the National Stadium, because we really want to bring it back to life. And so we're deliberately drawing activities to the stadium in 2020.
You would agree with me that when we're finally amending on doing what's the necessary thing to do in the budget, we need to change this from ongoing to new.
It's actually have it here as new. So where is it? I don't know why it appeared as ongoing. In our documents, it's new.
No, but the appropriation bill that was sent to National Assembly.
Okay, sir. We'll have it corrected.
And then the second one.
Then the second one, the 6 mini sports centers. Actually, one will be in each geopolitical zone, and one will be in each geopolitical zone, and we'll provide the details for the selection.
So, members, do you have any other questions? Okay, Minister was going to say.
Able to get sports reclassified from recreation to business, which has given us the opportunity to develop a business model around our sports, which will bring in the necessary funding that we need, both from the private and the public sector, to develop the sporting infrastructure that we need. I said by the end of this week, we meet in Osoba, all the 36 commissioners, to look at the final draft of the sports industry policy that will be based on 3 eyes and 1 in the infrastructure, investment, and incentive on the part of government. But also, we have written to Mr. President. We have done an audit of all our sporting facilities across the country 3 months ago. And it's interesting to know that we have over 120 sporting facilities. There's a national template across the country. Every single state has either a mini stadium or a township stadium or an indoor sports hall. Every single geopolitical zone. So we kind of picked a few and requested for 50 billion naira from the government, a one-time intervention fund to activate these centers. We were told to put it in our budget, but I think that it's been taken out. We hope that we can bring it back, because the truth is that if you want to attract investors to your assets, you must put a bit of value on your assets. But we're doing that. Now, talk about competitions. We introduced the Unity Cup, and COVID-19 stopped that process. We started with Oyo as a pilot. So we're supposed to have Kano Unity Cup, Oyo Unity Cup, Abuja Unity Cup, Ekiti Unity Cup, and I know if I don't say Ogun Unity Cup, I might be in trouble. Ogun Unity Cup, and Lagos Unity Cup. And it's so designed in such a way that it's not just football. If Ogun State feels that they produce the best basketballers, and there's a bias for basketball in Ogun State, they have an Ogun Unity Cup, but in the basketball competition. COVID-19 stopped after the pilot. We were supposed to go to Yobe. Yobe was ready for its own Unity Cup in football. It turns out most of the states actually want football. Kwara is ready for its own Unity Cup in basketball, because the talent in basketball in Kwara. And we think that that would be a revolution for our sports. The other question on selection, I think is very germane. I can just respond by saying that We have developed a national template for whatever program we have, whether it's youth or sports. That is, we must touch all bases. And the best structure we have is the geopolitical zone. And we know that in trying to do this, we must work with you to identify the key areas. What we intend to do is supply you with a report that shows what we have in each zone, geopolitical zone. And we have some places who have mini stadiums, some will have abandoned indoor sports, or some will have youth development centers. About 4 different categories of facilities, some abandoned, some unfunded, some not started. We will provide that data. We can work with you to select what you think is will be most useful and viable for your area. We have some already penciled down here. They are not cast in stone because what we have now is still a proposal. But we're going to work with you to provide you with that data. We'll work with the chairman, and then based on what we have, we will see what we can do. Like the Hausa say, they said, they didn't gari. What we can do will be determined by the amount of money we have in our budget.
This committee believes that there should be a substantial sum for sport development, whereas you propose some 5 billion for youth investment fund. I think there should be a sports investment fund with the same amount of money, some 5 billion, to develop up and aspiring talents in the sporting world. We need to engage our youths. There are youths that are entrepreneurs, there are youths that are educated professionals, but we have youths with talents, raw talents. We need to invest in the sporting development of the nation. So on this note, let me be very clear that this committee believes that that same 75 billion should be invested in sporting development. Thank you very much. This budget presentation defense is hereby called to close.
My name is Sunday Dari, Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports Development. Because we got some hard tackles, we got some hard questions, we had to explain some of the proposals we have there. We provided a lot of details, and we're still coming back with so many other documents that they will review and get back to us. It's a process. It's a question of saying that we've been able to present our programs, both in the youth and sports development, and that has received the attention and the approval of the financial authorities from the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning. So we have seen that response in the increase of our budget. So we expect to get more, but we're happy that we're able to move from where we were before to what we have proposed now that we will get, and that will help us to meet the needs of our youth and also develop our sports. Let me say, in the last 5.5 years, this government has been youth-focused. I've said it, 25 different youth-focused programs. So there has been a deliberate handle on youth issues under President Muhammadu Buhari. And the 75 billion NYIF fund tops it all up. So what we're seeing is a continued deepening of youth programs. The support we're getting for funding youth programs is in line with the focus of the administration right from inception. And I think that that will continue to be an upward trajectory.
Olumide Osoba, representing Babatunde North, Obafemi Ode, and Ododa Federal Constituency from Ogun State. I'm the Chairman, Committee on Sports. The budget for the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development. Unfortunately, that budget was prepared before we had the issues with the youth restiveness and the ENSAS protest. So we have had a meeting with the ministry and the other chairman of the Youth and Sports Committee, and we've agreed that there must be a review of that budget for the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports. And with that in line, we felt let us do more work behind the scenes to try and soothe the frayed nerves of the youths in the nation. First of all, let me state clearly, this government of President Muhammadu Buhari if we are being very, very truthful, there have been a lot of youth initiatives, but most of those initiatives were meant to take off this year. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic derailed a lot of these plans. But as we can say, the 75 billion National Youth Investment Fund is going to take off, and I believe that would go a long way in equipping the youths, entrepreneurs alike, to further empower themselves in entrepreneurship drive. Naturally, our committee is the oversighting committee of the sports section of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports. So regardless, we're going to be oversighting them. When I said adult committee, I meant a few members will be charged with the role of following up on all the spending. Year in, year out, throughout the 12 months of the year, we are permanently oversighting the ministry. I just said adult committee, meaning that instead of the whole committee going about the oversight, we'll get the deputy chairman and a few members to liaise continuously, weekly, week in, week out, with the ministry to know how they're spending the funds allocated to the ministry. A lot has happened in the last few weeks, and it's time to all be forgiving and try and chart a path forward with moving our country. We only have one country, Nigeria, and there's no other place we're going to. Let us try and develop our country. Let us all join hands together, be it the private sector, the CSOs, and the legislature and the executive. Everybody should join hands and try and make sure we have a country that is the pride of other nations.